Hey everybody, Phil here from Japan. Yes, my hair's probably a mess. I just kind of got up. But I wanted to tell you that I woke up to, I went to bed to Japan's new state of emergency. Yes, a nationwide state of emergency has been declared. You know, back on April 7th, a small group of 7 prefectures, as we call our states or provinces over here, they declared a state of emergency in those. And the effect was that a week later in Japan we had a doubling of cases. In other words, it didn't really work. So they decided, because it worked so well last time, to do a nationwide state of emergency. So last night on the news, normally, we have the news at 7 o'clock and it's half an hour. Last night it went on for 2 hours, and I watched the whole thing, and I cannot tell you what a state of emergency means. I didn't, I'm kind of speechless. Maybe I should have thought about this more before I pressed record, but I can't find anything, and I look now online in the morning when I wake up. Everyone talks about the state of emergency has been declared, and the governors now have the power. Local governors have the power to take measures. Blah blah blah. I cannot see any list or discussion about what those measures are. In Japan, there's a problem with the the Constitution does not allow the governors, to force people to stay home with legally, with punitive measures. So it's just a really strong request to please stay home, and people aren't doing it. I personally know of people who've come from Tokyo to this area, which is exactly the kind of thing that they don't want people to do. But there's no law against it. If you want to do it, you do it. You shouldn't, but if you do, you do. What I don't understand, okay, why don't they turn to business? If they can't do it to people, if they can't tell people, look, stay home and you're going to be punished, why can't they, it's a state of emergency, for God's sake. They have to be able to do something. Can't they stop the trains from running? Can't they stop the planes from flying? I mean, I don't live too far from an airport. Planes are still coming in like normal. Can't they say no prefecture to prefecture travel? Can't every time I make one of these, I probably look like an idiot. Because I'm baffled. I just don't understand it. I'm just going to quickly look at the numbers. So we're now over 10,000 infected cases here in Japan. Our death rate's hovering around 2%. We have 204. Now, I think they're not counting some people in the death rate, but a lot of countries are doing that. So there you go. This is what a state of emergency looks like here in Japan. I personally am kind of terrified to go outside, so I'm trying. I don't go. I go to the grocery store as little as possible, and I walk the dog. That's about it. Why people can't stay home? Okay, the other thing. Why don't they do something about businesses? Why don't they, there's this issue. Oh yeah, I forgot about. So, I had said a little while ago that the Abe government had said they were going to give about $3,000 to each household. They decided that was untenable for some reason. So what they've decided to do instead is to give everybody, I guess over the age of 20, which is the age of consent here, over 20, $1,000, regardless of income. So if you are a very rich person, you get $1,000 so you can have another bottle of wine. And if you're a very poor person, you get $1,000 so that you can live for another month or two. and people are like, well, this is the fairest. You see, this is one of the issues, and okay, maybe I'm going to get into Japan bashing here, but this is one of the issues. Why does it have to be fair? You know, already the people are rich. You know, you've got rich and poor. That's not fair. They don't seem to be worried about that kind of unfairness. But, okay, we're going to have to give everybody, because it would be too difficult to figure it out otherwise. And it's like, oh, you couldn't do it by age. That's too difficult to figure out. It's like, you know their fucking address. You don't know how old they are. You don't know how much money they make. It's bizarre, you know? Okay, great. I'm happy. I'm waiting for my check like I'm waiting for my cloth masks. Great. But I don't understand the logic behind this. It's like everybody knows what to do. You know, I come from Canada, I'm from Ontario. I couldn't find a good website that gave me a local breakdown about what was happening in Ontario, so I made a website. So I'm quite familiar with Covid-19 infection data, you know, because I've done that not for Ontario, but a few other places as well. And, you know, in Ontario, they've had quite a strict lockdown, and it has worked, you know. Their daily infections, you know, a week ago were 380 a day, and yesterday were 42. So that works. We pretty much everywhere in the world we've seen a massive drop if the activity has been strictly contained, you know. So we know this. And they're not going to do that here because they don't legally have a basis, and they don't seem to have the balls to ask companies to do it. So we're not going to do that. You know, I have friends who live in Spain and South Korea. Maybe I'll put up a video from Spain from yesterday. I'm spraying the streets, even in little towns. I don't know why they're spraying the streets, but they're spraying the streets. And they did that in South Korea. That seems to help keep the infection rate down. Are they doing that here? No. There'll be some reason, well, they're not quite sure which would be the best priority, and they don't want to. It's like, fuck, do something. All this running around that I see, all they've done, practically, as far as I can tell, is to ask people to stay home. To ask businesses to cut the number of workers and have them telework. That's all they've done. Now, you could have done that anytime in the past 2 months, for any reason. Why it's taken this long, I don't really understand it. It's a mystery to me, the behavior. And I know the Japanese people are just as frustrated as I am. On the news yesterday, even on NHK, which is kind of pro-Abe a little bit, everyone they interviewed on the street said, why wasn't it done earlier? Now, of course, you could say, well, you could have done it, because it doesn't seem like we're getting anything from a state of emergency, so you could have stayed home. But anyway, a state of emergency wasn't declared. People wanted it declared earlier. You know, they interviewed people. There's this target set by the government that you should cut your human-to-human contact by 80%. This was... I'm trying to think of the nicest way to do this, but okay. So one of the things I love about Japanese TV is there's a lot of man-on-the-street interviews. I love that. So here's an idea. We're trying to see who's cut down person-to-person contact. Let's go out on the street and ask them. And because in theory, anybody who's on the street isn't doing it. Right? So you ask this one guy, and my favorite, there's a lot of people said, oh, they're trying their best. One guy says, I would cut my human-to-human contact down 100%. Now, either he doesn't understand math, or he doesn't realize he's talking to a human being, or he's out on the street. I don't know what it is. So there's maybe a misconception. There's no information about what you really should be doing. Anyway, that's it. State of emergency. What's the date today? It's April 17th. State of emergency declared at 8:30 on the night of April 16th. And we'll see. I'll make a video in a few days. I mean, it's going to take a couple of weeks, right, to see the effect of this state of emergency, but I'll make a video in a few days and we'll see how we're doing. Hope things are better where you are. I know from looking at the data that a lot of you are better off where you are right now. So that's great. See you soon.